What is up, you guys? So, tonight I wanted to share my thoughts on the new Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker, and share with you guys what I thought about it, how I felt about it, now that I watched it as of 3 hours ago. And honestly, I feel like I did very well with my retention of this movie. So be warned, like everything that I have done before pertaining to movies, this is a spoiler reviewish kind of deal. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to hear spoilers or you don't want to hear details, click away. All right? All right. Hopefully you guys read the title. So, this movie. I honestly, right off the bat, I'm going to say that I do not understand why a lot of people have been hating on this movie, like quite severely. The way that this movie concluded, I cannot say that I could foresee the details of how this movie was going to end exactly as it panned out. But what else did you expect with this movie? Like, for the people who are upset about the way it ended and some characters not being done well or something, what did you want? What did you expect? What made this such a bad movie for you? I don't get it. Action, it was there. Visually appealing, it was there. Dialogue that makes sense, dialogue that's relevant to the plot, it was there. New powers, something to showcase, it was there. The pacing of the movie, even when it had its downtimes, it wasn't boring, it was intriguing, it had stuff going on for it. So, for the people who did not like it, I guess you see something that I don't, because I'm not very good with Star Wars. I gotta be honest. Like, I do not remember it as well as, say, Dragon Ball or something like that. But this movie, particularly, out of all of the three that came out for this saga, I want to say this was my favorite. Now, let's dig in to some details. When it comes to characters, the one character that I felt might be a little confusing is Ben Solo, like Kylo Ren, as they know him. Because, for instance, my boyfriend was saying that he felt like this villain was weak. He felt like this character just wasn't interesting enough. He might have been boring, something like that. And I said, well, honestly, I feel like it is appropriate for Ben to come off this way because this is the child of two folks who were not Sith people at all, but Ben was serving the Emperor. So when you have a conflicting allegiance like that, like your roots are somewhere else, but what your reality is something else. I can see why that would generate a conflict. And what I like about Ben is that he is his own little character with his own little issues. Like, yes, he is a mess, but I did not want to see another Darth Vader because we already have a Darth Vader. I don't need to see another maybe Luke because we already have a Luke. And there is just no way that Ben could be a Luke. You know what I mean? Let Ben be Ben. And honestly, as I guess detached of a villain as he might have been, I enjoyed the fact that he was like that. I'm not tripping that he wasn't this ultimate villain and that Palpatine came back. To me, it It did make sense for him to be there, but I'm not going to lie, I was not expecting that, even though in the comments someone randomly posted on the Frozen section, like my Frozen review, that Palpatine was back. I'm like, fucking great. I don't mind spoilers, but I was prepared to see that. It makes sense to see him there because it turns out that Rey is his granddaughter. So why would you not want to have this happening, like their encounter happening? Because we never saw anything about Rey's parents. So at least let the relationship with Rey and Palpatine just be something that we get to experience, given that Kylo Ren did not get to meet Darth Vader. So I feel like that was nicely done. And it was nice to see that absolutely has zero love and affection for this emperor person. Her allegiance remained with what she knew, which was the Jedi way of things. When it comes to certain details of the story pertaining to, say, the newer characters, newer being people like Finn, Poe, those that have never been mentioned before, they are not from the original saga, I guess, the first movies or so. I feel like they were nice. They were unique. They had their own stuff going on for them. It's not like we needed to have, say, a new Yoda, something crazy like that. I know that Yoda will always be Yoda. You cannot compare Yoda to anyone else. But what I'm saying is that these were characters that were not necessarily Jedi, but they didn't need to be Jedi because they had their own backgrounds to support them. Like Finn, having originally being a stormtrooper, he knew of stormtrooper things or information that stormtroopers would know about that would aid people like Rey in their quest at infiltrating the Empire. So I feel like it's good that they didn't try to make these characters Jedi. Oh, because you are with the good guys, then somehow we have to be able to train you in the Jedi way. No, that was reserved for Rey. And as much as I miss the Jedi, like there being a group of Jedi warriors and stuff, like people wielding green lightsabers, blue lightsabers, and whatnot, I feel like it makes sense that the Jedi were ultimately gone and that Rey was wielding all of their powers together because that means that it was all one person who was able to harness the power of a Jedi, harness the Force, stuff like that. So I feel like if there would have been a, say, like a council of Jedi or something, Rey would not have been able to develop into the character that she turned into. And anyways, hopefully with the detail that I will share coming up, it will make a little better sense if that's hard to follow. But what I'm saying is that I didn't feel like this was no longer a Star Wars movie just because we do not have the elements that were present in the earlier movies. I don't feel compelled to see those details in these newer generations because the whole point of you being a new generation is that stuff from the past is no longer around, but you stick to certain things that are indispensable. It's like your inheritance. What you inherit, the important things, the meaningful things, that's what you inherit, and that's what you pass along, and possibly develop the stuff that you inherit so that the future generations can take it and do something with it, if that makes sense. When it comes to Palpatine himself, like his return, I felt like it was nice because his power was shown from a different perspective. We saw him being dependent on like some kind of life support or something. Like he wasn't himself, like the Palpatine that we were used to. It's not like he had all of his power. He had to pretty much take Ray and Ben's power and like suck it out of them so that he could restore his physical capabilities. Like his eyes would stop being pale and dead looking and blind or something. And he would finally get his yellow color back, like his ember eyes back. It makes sense. Like after you got what was it? Didn't he like fry himself with Vader toward the end of the the third movie or something? Like it makes sense that you would need something to restore your power. And what better way to do so than with like the energy of these younger people, right? But I feel like the way he was brought back was interesting because to me, Palpatine has obviously been the most terrifying character of them all, given all the damage he can do, and he's also the Emperor. Like, this is as evilness gets, if you want to call it that. So I think it's nice that we get to see him again facing off against another generation, and he seems to be more threatening than ever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's unstoppable. And also, I like the fact that we had characters show up that maybe we thought we were never really going to see again. Like that one general from the original movies as well. He came back. I forget his name. But anyways, he's a general of some sort and he knows Leia. So it's nice that some characters make a brief appearance, but to me it was relevant because he brought some of his military expertise and he was able to recruit a bigger rebellion because otherwise they were all getting swatted like flies. And it makes sense because this is the final order, the final army. Like this is as armorious as the evil side gets, you know? And I really enjoyed that because at some point you were like, oh wow, everyone is gonna die. I legitimately thought that some of the characters, given that this is the last movie for the saga, I thought, well, maybe some of the characters that I would think are immune to dying because they're main characters, maybe they are going to die this time around. Maybe they have to die. But not necessarily. Everyone who's relevant was pretty much kept safe and sound. And something that was kind of strange for me, but at the same time, I cannot say it was absolutely unpredictable, was that somehow, well, not somehow, it is understood in the movie that Kylo Ren stops being Kylo Ren after Leia dies. But it's interesting that they tried to make it seem like Ray and Ben were like interested in each other or like they had some kind of romantic chemistry. Like I could sort of see why that could fly in a sense because after all, when it comes to their turn in generations, they are around the same age. And say Ray is the grandchild of Palpatine and then Ben is the grandchild of Darth Vader, which at some point they were like dark people, and you are descendants of dark people, but you're not necessarily condemned to stay dark. So to me, the theme in this movie was that just like Leia kept saying to Rey, do not be afraid of who you are. I guess at this point they understood that she would not succumb to the dark side. But I think it's interesting that the theme in this case is presented as it is possible for you to break the curse of your heritage. You are not cursed by your heritage. It may feel that way, but you don't have to necessarily answer for those things. And I feel like if you apply it to real life, it is kind of a nice message, but it really depends on your individual interpretation of it. But I like it. I like it when a theme revolves around something like that because I feel like even if we explore it 700 times before, I'm still willing to see it being portrayed differently 700 more times. So that's my personal takeaway from it. Maybe you guys may see it a little differently, or maybe you may disagree with me entirely. That's totally fine. But I was just glad to see that the trailer might have presented it like maybe Ray was going to have some kind of conflict and she may end up being the bad guy because we really didn't know much about her. But no, I feel like it makes sense for it to pan out that way. Why would you want to make this person be evil on the last episode? It just doesn't really make sense. That's not what she's been building up for. And nowhere, at no point in the movie, did she have any indication, or I should say, any point in any of the movies, did she have any indication that she may be struggling with who she is and who her allegiance may be with? You know, this is just a girl. I guess like Anakin, he was raised to be like mostly innocent, but then along the way, something just happened to where, like Yoda said, I am not sure about the fate of this one or something something. I forget how he phrased it. But I think that with Ray, it just would not have fit into her character for her to suddenly be evil, you know? And I thought that she was going to like slash Palpatine down, not necessarily to claim the throne. I thought that maybe she would eliminate him to just get rid of the threat of him, but she would be like, "All right, all of you Sith, you see that I can take down your emperor. If you dare to oppose me, you're going to meet his fate. Just dissolve somehow, live your life. I don't care about having an empire, even if it's my birthright." But fortunately, movie has to movie, and Palpatine does not keep info to himself because the way he phrased it made it seem like if Rey were to take his life, he can somehow like take over her body or something and he could keep living through her because they're the same blood or something, and she possesses his power. But but I think it's interesting that Palpatine, they give him enough dialogue for him to give that away because Rey, as the intelligent individual that she is, she's like, well, clearly you're trying to trick me because I want to eliminate you because you're a threat, but at the same time, you're telling me that if I do that, you're going to take over me. Like your spirit pretty much is going to like take over me, and that's not the point. The point is to eliminate you as an entity in this world, but if you will continue through me, how is that doing the right thing? Like, I don't know how to really put it into words, but I like to see a main character that can think as opposed to, oh, well, Ray just tried to kill him, and now we have to somehow kill Ray as well because she's evil now since she did this thing that makes people turn to the dark side or something, you know? Um, it's interesting that the vision, the way that Ray was saying she saw the vision that she was like at the Empire on the throne or something and she was with men. I at some point thought that maybe she would end up having a conflict like Anakin and then turning evil, maybe very briefly. But like I said, it just would not have made sense for her character to do that. And just because she said that she was with Ben, it didn't mean that they were governing the Empire in an evil way. And I feel like that part of the movie, when it comes to context clues that let you see like the foreshadowing, I feel like that was nicely done because parts of this movie that I absolutely thought I could tell what was going to happen, something different happened. And I like that. So for anyone who says that they did not enjoy this movie, I guess I'll have to do more research and see what people are saying exactly, but most of it was just maybe to avoid spoilers since the movie's just recently out. Nobody really wants to dig into those details of why you hated it, but when it comes to those elements, I personally feel satisfied as the audience, but then again, maybe I can feel that way because I'm not really attached to Star Wars like that. It's not like I know about it well enough to sustain a prolonged conversation quite like I know about Dragon Ball or Frozen or things like that, you know? But honestly, I'm concerned about how I felt for the duration of the movie. This movie's like 2.5 hours long. During the course of the movie, I said to myself, this is the last movie of this saga. A lot is happening. A lot has happened. How much more time do we have left? Because when I went to see this movie, I had no earthly idea how long it was, and I was worried that this might turn into another Infinity War where it's really long, but maybe not enough of the things that I was hoping to see could happen because the movie is about to end and you can feel that it's about to end. But in this movie, even though you had the climax and then like headed toward the ending, even then it didn't feel like the movie was as over as you thought it was. I was like, wait, please don't tell me that the credits are going to start rolling because I'm not ready for them. I was glad to see that the movie did not just end with a weird, a what can I say, conclusion that's not definite. Those cliffhanger type of deals. No, this is the end. You can tell it's the end. And what can I say? I'm glad that it's the end because what else could you do with this? Um, and I don't mind that at all because I don't mind this movie. I enjoy this movie very much. So now I guess I would like to explore more what other people, the specifics of what people hated about it. Because there were some people saying that they hated it. And when I went to see this movie, I said to myself, I can expect for this to be a very bad movie. And after the first, what I believe were the first 15 minutes, I'm like, I cannot see how they're going to shit on this movie. I honestly cannot. And the action sequences, I'm not going to lie, the stage where they're fighting and there's like water in the surrounding area, some of the movements did seem goofy to me, but maybe they had to look goofy because the surface was not very stable. You're fighting in the middle of waves, and the momentum that you gain is going to be difficult. These are not ordinary waves, these are like massive waves, and like the ocean is just hitting against your already unstable surface. So it makes sense for movement to look kind of weird. But the choreography of it, just lightsaber shit that we're used to seeing. What else are you looking for? You know? And then that dark ray, I completely forgot about it. Like the one that has like two red lightsabers attached from one end to another, just like Darth Maul or something. I thought that was going to be more extensive to the plot after I saw it, but it was a very brief thing. There wasn't really much going on from that. It was more of a vision more than anything. And something that I particularly enjoyed that it kind of tripped me at first was this power of, can I call it a multi-dimension? But you could interact with someone who's not in the same meat space as you, but you could end up with items from them somehow. Like Ren, not Ren, why do I keep calling him that? Ben and Ray had like this thing where they were trading items with each other. Like Ben was snatching things from Ray, but then Ray could pretty much telepathically send him a lightsaber. It's interesting, it gets weird, but at the same time, it's a power that we haven't really seen before. It goes way beyond just telepathic shit. And I was glad to see that because it's something that you couldn't really see coming. But also, something that I thought was really neat was when like Ray had her life pretty much sucked out of her by Palpatine. It was like she could see all the destruction that her grandfather was causing, but she was like aware that she had all of the Jedi power flowing through her, and then everybody's voices just cameoed during this. You had the voice of pretty much everyone in the past has been a Jedi master or just a Jedi influence of some sort. And I thought that was neat. Why would someone who says that they hate this movie not appreciate that little bit? I thought that was very nicely done. Because you, as the Jedi, if you're really the resistance, if you're really like the rebellion and whatever, then you are training for this. You are training to hopefully see the day when you emerge victorious. And you have been raising so many generations, and the whole point is for the next generation to pass on the teachings to the next generation and the next generation, and someone is going to finally make it happen, and that person is Ray. So why does that not click with you? I think it's weird. Again, I'll look into it. If it's compelling enough, I shall create a follow up video to this, I guess. But I'm trying to imagine what about this movie I can specifically pick on and be like, totally, you are the reason this movie sucks. This is definitely bad. Some things that I saw that I felt was a little off was that there was this scene of like the scene of Ray and Ben having a brief moment of like kissing. It wasn't weird to me at all. It didn't bother me at all. It's just that I didn't think that was going to happen, only because to me there was more hint that she might be more interested in Finn and vice versa. Like Finn was definitely interested in her. Why, if you had the intention of making something romantic happen, why would you not have it happen between them? Because to me it seemed like they have a little bit more chemistry than Raylo. Although I get it. I mean, the Raylo stuff is more like it's more of a power thing to me. But at the same time, I feel like it would have been more appropriate for it to happen with Finn, because I feel like they're more close, they're more concerned with each other. And I forget which movie it was, if it was The Last Jedi or The Force Awakens, but there was one part in which, like Finn especially, he was really trying to find Rey. Like this seemed like someone genuinely concerned, the amount of concern that you put into someone when you truly care for them. So why would you not have your romantic opportunity there? I don't know. It doesn't add to the plot. I don't care about it. I'm not going to movies to see that type of thing anyway, so I don't mind. And then a another part that I don't want to say was shocking, it was just not something I was expecting to see, was like this random scene when everybody comes back and they're celebrating, and then there's like these two girls like having a moment too of kissing each other. I'm like, oh wow. Like I don't want to sound like I cannot tolerate that, but I wasn't expecting to see that. And especially in a Star Wars movie, I guess anything goes because you have all kinds of aliens and whatnot. But when I think about the classic movies, there was never a hint of that. So, like, where did that come from? Please don't tell me that modern day politics are just trying to seep into movies, because we have a lot of that as it is already. Again, it's not something that really affects the movie because most of the movie was done anyway, and that was just a brief moment of like celebration, and you can have, these two people come together. But I'm just saying that just like I wasn't prepared to see Raylo happen, I wasn't prepared to see that happen. But again, it doesn't take away from the movie, it doesn't add to the movie, but I just thought that it was off. But anyways, you guys let me know how scenes like that make you feel. Whether you feel like romance in movies kills things a little bit, or if you think that they're a nice touch, or if you think that there's something that should not happen as often, because in real life, no matter how heroic you are in your profession, it doesn't mean that you end up hooking up. Hopefully, it doesn't mean that you end up hooking up with everybody who you collaborated with. But at some point, we need to have stories more often that do not necessarily have an ending of everyone gets paired up. And someone was telling me that someone out there was trying to say that Finn and Poe needed to be a thing. Why? No! There is no reason why they need to be a thing. They have no chemistry, and that type of thing just does not need to be happening. So I feel like had such a thing happen, it would have given me that feeling like J.K. Rowling trying to say that Dumbledore was swinging that way the whole time. No, girl. No. Nobody believes that, bro. So I don't know. Those things, when people try to blow it out of proportion like that, that's when I get worried, because I feel like you want to throw so much of your own personal fanfic into it, and you know that it doesn't go with the story, but you want it to happen so bad. If you want it to happen so bad, you come up with the resources and you do it. But don't try to centralize something around that. Because what you need to do is find the show that centralizes on that, and not try to alter something that already exists with a different element to it. Am I making myself clear? I hope so. But yeah, you guys, like I said before, when it comes to action, what I was looking for in a Star Wars movie was there. Dog fighting, lightsaber fighting, and all those things that make Star Wars Star Wars. It was there. Why are people mad? When it comes to dialogue, I feel like it left me with not that many questions, except that I forget who was the child of Palpatine. Like, was it Rey's mom or Rey's father that was the direct link to Palpatine? I didn't catch that part. But when it comes to everything else, I feel like everything is clear, everything is answered. And the other things that may not be expressed in the movie, I guess it's up to your individual interpretation, but also some stuff is just common sense that doesn't need explanation. And some aspects of their powers, I feel like don't need much explanation either. Just remember that it's fiction, and in fiction worlds, anything is possible. So maybe coming from someone like me, you guys know that I love logical things. Stuff like this, I don't need for there to be logic. It's okay for there to be mysteries and not widely understood things. There are people who really obsess over details like that, and I simply do not have the time for that, nor the care for that. But it doesn't take away from the movie. To me, when I watch a movie, I want to be engaged. I want to see action. I want for the pacing to be not too fast to where it's sloppy, but not too slow where I'm like, good lord, how much longer do I have before I can resume my life as I know it, you know? I also like for there to be different points of view to a story. I like for there to be plenty of dialogue, but not dialogue that's just dialogue for the sense, for the purpose of just having dialogue, you know? Like, I like for the dialogue to have a goal. You're discussing something, and this movie delivered that. There have been movies in which I feel like the dialogue is just sloppy and it just doesn't make any sense. This movie doesn't feel like that at all. Because when it comes to dialogue, you guys know that I'm all about that. I can take care of that. But I feel like everyone contributed what they needed to contribute in their respective, like, topics, in their respective fields. Something interesting, though, as someone mentioned to me, was that some of the deaths in this movie seemed pretty detached. Like, say, the most genuine reaction and emotion that I saw to a death was when Ray thought that she killed Chewie by accident, and when Chewie found out that Leia died. I mean, that little furry creature lost his shit. All right, that was a really genuine emotion, and I like that. But some of the other deaths, they were like, all right, it happens. Boom. I guess these people are just used to death. They are tired. Some of them are depressed. Some of them are repressed. All kinds of things. So maybe that's why we don't see emotion attached to deaths. And also, except for Leia, there really wasn't any other major character that we really need to mourn, I guess. But I thought it was kind of odd that the people who did die here, it's like, all right, you're dead, but no big deal. You know, it seemed pretty detached. But again, when you have a 2.5 hour long movie, you don't want to drag that. Like, oh yeah, all these people who die. It's understood that there would be some kind of memorial ceremony at some point to remember them. That's what memorials are, you know? So why would we need to include that in the movie? It's not necessary. But yeah, you guys, I know that this is not my forte. Reviewing movies, no matter how recent they are, is not really my forte. I cannot keep my mind together, especially scriptless on it. But I said what I had to say, which was I like this movie, and I attempted to explain the things that stood out to me that made me appreciate this film. And of course, seeing Luke back in his spirit form and like giving Rey Leia's original lightsaber and also her flying his original ship, I thought that was fucking cool. So you have that to look forward to. And if you haven't seen the movie, but you don't mind spoilers and you're here, I thought I would mention that. But I thought it's neat. This movie also gave me some nostalgia because we got to see some old items, old ships, old characters. We heard some of their voices and whatnot. So, I mean, seriously, I am eager to, not tonight, but at some point, catch up with what people are saying that upset them about this movie because I just cannot. My mental capacity, as amazing as it is, not to brag, but I just cannot think it up independently. Alright, let me catch up with the comments. Hi, beautiful. Glad to see you in live chat. Are you feeling better? Yes, I am feeling much better. I believe that I can say that I am 100% healed, but right now it is kind of cold. I just came back from the cold, so maybe a little bit of it did get to me, and that's why I'm starting to sound stuffy again. But yeah, I feel great. I cannot believe how well I have been feeling lately. I thought I would never feel this way again. Still not too sure that I want to see it. I feel like I have moved on. I enjoyed the original trilogy, but I never obsessed over it. See, I can understand why people are super wild about it. When I was a kid, I'm not going to lie, I was like Star Wars. What I like about it is lightsabers and flying jet things that shoot lasers. Pew 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 pew. But there was too much going on. There's like all kinds of aliens, all kinds of planets. It was complicated for my little child mind, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I can appreciate it. I can enjoy the movies when I watch them, but I guess there's so many of them that for me to keep up with every single little detail, especially given that naturally my retention sucks, then maybe that's what made me be like, Star Wars is cool, but it's not that cool, you know? Honestly, like everything, the soundtrack is what tends to stick to me, and I always felt like the soundtrack was cool. And I was saying that too. I was like, this soundtrack, even though it's super, super, super old, it ages very well. It's not cringy. Not cringy at all. Redemption is a very powerful theme. We all have done things we are not proud of, and the thought of redemption speaks to us on many levels. Yes, I loved the movie. Good, we have someone who loved the movie. Hi, Zamri. Merry Christmas. Hey, Jordan. I didn't go to the show to see Star Wars, but I love the old ones because the old ones are hardcore. Ever since George Lucas sold his company to Walt Disney, got it stuff to me. Yes, I feel like some of the stuff that was associated with the original stuff got lost because now it's in different hands. Um, when it comes to the writing of the movie, see, how can I put this into words? When someone says this movie had a really bad writing, it's really hard for me to see that because I treat writing like it's a completely different, separate thing, even though I know that you need to have stuff written out for movies to be possible. But when someone says that the writing is terrible, I guess they mean dialogue and the sequence of events. But sometimes when I have a moving picture, a movie, it's kind of hard for me to remember that this is stuff that was written. You just see the final product and you're like, okay, here we have the movie where movie stuff is happening. But you tend to forget that this is a piece of art that had to be authored. But at the same time, when someone says that the writing is terrible, I have the toughest time associating that sometimes. Because I'm like, no, what do you mean the writing was terrible? Look at all this action. Why are you thinking about writing, you know? But anyway, maybe that's something that the more I expose myself to movies and discuss them, then I'll get better about it because I gotta be patient with myself. I did not start discussing movies in any way until I started going to the movies again with someone. So it's strange for me to be stepping into this territory. This is not what I'm used to. But anyways, I try. I like me a good challenge. How are you doing, Zambri? Pretty good. Pretty good. Shoot lasers. You did that go pew pew. My brother beat the Star Wars video game on Nintendo 64. That game is hard and fun. I obviously never played it since I never mentioned it before. And I cannot say I saw it either. No memory of Star Wars for N64. But I have no doubt that it must have been difficult because there were some N64 games that could be pretty difficult. So yeah, I have to look up a gameplay on YouTube. That's what I do. Any games that I missed out that I discover now from back in the day, I just look up a gameplay and I'm like, wow. I would probably have enjoyed that as a kid. I forget what the name is, but I'll show it to you. Sure, go ahead. Well, guys, this is going to be it from me. I definitely gotta go to bed because I have an early shift as per usual. And honestly, I'm starting to lose my voice because this girl needs to like chug on some water. But anyways, hopefully I did not make this review painful. I know that this is not my forte, but I just wanted to share my thoughts and try to break it down as best as possible, and hopefully someone out there maybe can challenge some of my views or maybe be like I agree or disagree. So yeah, you guys let me know. But I really think that everyone should give this movie an opportunity. And please go into the theater with an open mind. Because I ain't gonna lie, I thought that when I was going to the theater, I was going to see a piece of shit. Because I was allowing other people's opinions to influence me somewhat. And I'm like, no, I need to let this movie present itself to me and I need to not have a bias for it. But I thought that I was going to walk out of this movie going like, what I saw was absolutely horrendous. But nah, people are tripping. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you soon.